Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
and he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, here with the golden voice of Sterling Holmes and the amazing producer, Richard. Sterling, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Things are great. It's a new year, which is interesting because I just got used to writing 2015 on all my papers, but I guess I'll have to try again next year.
2024 sounds like some post-apocalyptic year. I mean, we're very far into the future now.
Why do you think the Chiefs' offense has struggled? It's because it's 2024. We're not supposed to go this far.
The simulation is cracking. Well, we've got a great show for you guys today. We'll chat with one of the brightest minds in football media and then hand out some hardware. First ever, we're calling it the Wackies for our regular season award, of course. But first, a bit of business.
All right, everyone, we are back. FanDuel Sportsbook is with us. Hey, Chiefs fans, if you've not downloaded FanDuel Sportsbook yet, you will definitely want to take advantage of this limited time offer. After signing up, new users must deposit $10 and place a first wager of $5 on any active line. Even if your first bet loses, you will still receive $150 in bonus bets. This promo will be automatically added to your account when you sign up through our link, bit.ly/Arrow150. Using our link not only gets you this fantastic bonus, but also directly supports the Arrowhead Addict team. So if you've not signed up for the FanDuel, make sure you do so by scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link in the description below. The link is bit.ly/Arrow150. This offer is available only to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode descriptions for our sign-up link and full terms of the offer.
It's time for our guest. Let's welcome Aaron Schatz, the creator of DVOA and Chief Analytics Officer of the FTN Network. Welcome, Aaron.
Hey, good to be here, guys.
We wanted to have you on here for a while. Glad we could make it happen. We have 6 questions for you. So let's crack into that 6-pack.
All right.
First off, tell us a little bit about your background and explain DVOA for our members and of the audience who aren't familiar with the concept.
Well, my background is weird. Folks may know I've been doing analytics in football for 20 years now. I launched my old site, Football Outsiders, in 2003. But before that, I was actually a radio disc jockey. And then I wrote a column called the Lycos 50 for the old internet search engine Lycos about what people searched for on the internet. It was sort of part media, part marketing research. And then I started Football Outsiders, in 2003, started doing football analytics. So DVOA, what's the basic idea? The basic idea is to measure every play and the success on that play based on the down and distance, and then compare it to a league average baseline that is adjusted for situation and opponent. And so that gives you a basic idea of how efficient teams are. Now, every year is averaged to 0. And that gives you a better way to compare how teams are from year to year, because of course there's like way more offense in the game now than there was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So it corrects for that. And you can break it down because it's done by play. You can break it down, and look at just certain downs or just running plays or just certain players or just red zone or, any other way you want to break it down.
Well, thank you, by the way, Aaron, for coming on because DVOA is one of my absolute favorite metrics I use. I do sports talk radio here in Kansas City as well. So I use your metrics all the time. So, Aaron, thank you for making me sound smart. See, I'm not smart enough to come up with my own numbers and metrics. I can't do that. So that's what you're here for, Aaron. I do want to say the Chiefs defense is ranked 5th in pass DVOA. They're great. They're great against the pass. But against the run, they're 29th. The largest discrepancy in the league. How big of an issue is this for Kansas City's defense going forward?
Well, I think it sort of depends on the offensive script, right? Like the fact is, a lot of more analytically friendly teams have been weaker against the run than the pass, because the idea is, first of all, you're trying to prevent explosive plays, which primarily come through the pass. And the second is, the pass in general is more efficient than the run. So the hope is that your offense takes the lead, and then it doesn't matter that you aren't that good against the run because the other team is stuck passing the ball, and here you are stopping the pass. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that the Chiefs offense has not kept up its part of the bargain over the last few weeks, and therefore the run defense has been a little bit more of a problem because it's not like the Chiefs are taking, 14-0 leads and then the other team is stuck passing the ball. But the fact is that in the NFL, the modern NFL, if you had to choose which do we want to be good against, the pass or the run, you choose the pass.
Totally agree. Yeah, they're a bit of a run funnel defense, and I think it works better when the offense is building leads, right? But they haven't been able to do that this year. One of the reasons this pass defense is so good is that the Chiefs excel at defending wide receiver ones, limiting them to 49.8 yards per game. L'Jarius Sneed, he hasn't even allowed a touchdown. Is this level of corner play sustainable?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the answer is no, but it's probably still going to be pretty good for the next few games. But then in particular from year to year, no. Like cornerback play, no matter how you measure it, is very, very inconsistent. It may be the most inconsistent position in football. So whether you use charting stats or something like Pro Football Focus grades or just anecdotes, right? There's plenty of anecdotes of cornerbacks who had fabulous years, and then the next year came and they weren't that good, and then the following year came and they were really good again, and they just bounce all around the place. So, I don't know whether Sneed being so good this year is a marker that he's going to be so good again next year. But I think that, the way that they have the defense structured and the way he's playing, it's probably more likely that he can continue to be good this year for the rest of this year. So I would feel good about how they're playing against number one wide receivers as we get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I always consider cornerbacks like relievers in baseball, right? Where some guys are dominant one year, then they struggle the next.
Yeah.
In regards to the Chiefs in general, they've found a way. So a lot of unheralded guys, right? L'Jarius Sneed, 4th rounder. Travarius Ward the year before, he was an undrafted guy. Is this something where this is a lot of Steve Spagnuolo, where he's able to find and identify a certain trait that fits in his scheme? I will say Travarius Ward's had a very nice season since he left Kansas City and San Francisco. But what is it with the Chiefs in general, especially Spags and the secondary members, Dave Merritt, being able to identify certain traits that allow them to succeed?
I don't know the answer to that question, but they do. They have a good record of picking up lower round defensive backs, although like McDuffie was a top guy, right? So it's not just lower round defensive backs. I don't know per se. I mean, I think you'd have to be more of a film guy to say, okay, this is the thing that Spagnuolo is recognizing. I think that's more of probably a film question than an analytics question.
Well, then in regards to the variability year over year, are you more in the camp of you would not or you would pay a corner who's having a great year, right? Like L'Jarius Sneed, he's obviously coming up for contract. Where do you lie in this regard here?
It's a tough question. I think you would want to make sure that you had a corner that over a 3-year period maybe was really good every year. And it's tough because, so here is the balance. Cornerback play is very important, but it's also very inconsistent, right? It's more important than safety play or linebacker play, but it's also less predictable than safety play. I mean, the answer is pay your edge rushers, because your edge rushers are super important and much more predictable than your cornerbacks. But no, whether to pay cornerbacks or not is a difficult question. No, that's true.
Patrick Mahomes is typically among the league leaders in DYAR, which is defensive adjusted yards above replacement on scrambles. How much value does his tactical scrambling add to the KC offense? I mean, we know it's not Lamar Jackson. We know he's not going to try and take on guys typically like Josh Allen, but we always laugh and say he's just this much quicker than the guy who's chasing him. How valuable is Mahomes scrambling?
First of all, he kind of is Lamar Jackson as a scrambler, because what gives Lamar a lot of his value is not scrambling, it's designed runs, right? Mahomes is very good scrambler, and scrambles are just like a very high efficiency play, because you're taking a sack and turning it from a negative into a positive. So not only are scrambles by their nature pretty efficient, but they replace negative plays because they would have been sacks if you didn't scramble for the positive yardage. So Mahomes' ability to scramble is worth a lot to the Chiefs. And I'll add, by the way, for the Chiefs historical fans, another player who people do not realize was very efficient as a scrambler was Trent Green.
We love Trent Green on the show. We've had him on the show before. I wish we would have let him know that, because I think he always gets put into the pocket passer category.
He was more but like if he took off, he was going to get a first down. Like his career did not have a lot of 3-yard scrambles on 3rd and 9. Like if he scrambled, he was getting the first down. So as a scrambler, he was very efficient.
So how much of scrambling according to you, is athleticism versus processing versus feel in the pocket, those type of intangibles?
Oh, I don't know how I would divvy it up. Again, that's, I think, more of a film watching question as far as like how you would divvy up the importance. Like, obviously it matters, the tactical, like you have to recognize when you're going to run for it and not get taken down 1 yard past the line of scrimmage, or worse, run for it and get taken down behind the line of scrimmage, and then you should have just thrown the ball away. So, I mean, there's, speed is part of it. But like you said, Mahomes doesn't have great speed. He just seems to be like slightly faster than every defender who goes after him.
And he typically leads the league in pressure to sack percentage.
Yes.
So I feel like it's the combo of not taking sacks and being an effective scrambler that is such a net positive for the Chiefs.
The more we do analytics, the more we learn that sacks are really related to the quarterback. Like, yes, the offensive line does play some role in sacks, but they are very heavily related to the quarterback. And sack rate is something that tends to correlate well when a player comes from college to the NFL or switches teams in the NFL. And you wouldn't think it was like that, because historically we always thought of that as more of an offensive line stat, but it's really heavily a quarterback stat.
So Chiefs fans listening right now, you have something you can use against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. There you go.
Oh yeah, Burrow takes too many sacks. There's no question. It's not just their offensive line is not good, but it's not just the offensive line. Burrow just does take too many sacks.
So this is something our audience isn't going to like, but I think it's important to hear an objective take on our Super Bowl chances. Your site calculates that the Chiefs only have a 2.4% chance of winning the Super Bowl. What has caused them to go from front runner to afterthought?
There's two things. The first is the offensive slowdown. So they rank 17th in offensive DVOA since week 10, right? Like, there's no question that the offense is having problems. I don't need to sit here and tell you what they all are. Y'all know what they are. And the offense has been better than I think people realize. But for the last few weeks, it's been very mediocre. And then the other thing is San Francisco and Baltimore are just so good this year. Now, I realize my numbers have San Francisco and Baltimore even further ahead of the rest of the league than the market does, right? So my numbers are super in love with San Francisco and Baltimore. But even the market, has San Francisco and Baltimore easily as the top 2 teams this year. They're historically good. By DVOA, the Baltimore Ravens are the third best team since 1981, and the 49ers are the sixth best team. It's still a better than 50-50 shot that one of those teams loses before we make it to the Super Bowl. But wow, the chances that they both get to the Super Bowl are pretty high. And so that makes everybody else lower. Like, I think Dallas is our number 3 team in Super Bowl odds, and they're at like 5%. So part of what's going on with the Chiefs is just our numbers just love the Ravens and the 49ers so much.
Yeah, and I'm with you in regards to the Ravens. I'm shocked it's been that good, but I said earlier on in the season, there were a lot of wonky numbers, I thought, earlier on that made them not look quite as good as what we were going to see as the season progressed on and on and on. And now we're seeing them run at full strength. Now, for me, I thought one of the more underrated offseason moves was Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator, right? Opening the entire offense up, not quite as much of a horizontal offense, but more of a vertical offense with Lamar Jackson. And we're seeing that running full power right now. Why does DVOA in general love the Ravens so much? Is it because they're so highly ranked defensively in all facets, offensively in all facets? Everything just...
Here's the thing. They have played good teams and they have destroyed them. They've played the 5th hardest schedule in the league this year. The 5th hardest schedule, and they're 13-3. Like, they destroyed Detroit. They destroyed Seattle. They destroyed Miami. They destroyed San Francisco, and they destroyed Cleveland in the first of the 2 games that they played against Cleveland. Like, yeah, they had that game with Pittsburgh where the receivers dropped all the passes, and yeah, they had the game with Cleveland where they lost by 2 points, but like most of their games, they have big wins, and they're not destroying the Carolina Panthers. Like, they have big wins over good teams, and historically that is like the best indicator of a great team.
You mentioned drops. How much do those affect offensive DVOA?
They're not accounted for. I count for all incomplete passes the same. I don't have data on drops. The data I get on drops, I don't get right away. And also, of course, I don't have it for history, right? I can't go back to 1981 with drops. So there's no accounting for drops. Drops are a little overrated, right? Like, they're very inconsistent from year to year. Like, they suck. I mean, there's no point you don't want your receivers dropping passes, but they're not that predictive. And a lot of times they're not that much different from other incomplete passes.
I agree with you that they're overrated with most fans, that they're not as sticky as people think, but the Chiefs have had some really bad luck there, and it's kind of been a plague of drops across their entire.
Yeah, but like the Ravens are a good example of a team that early in the season they had a lot of drops, and then late in the season they haven't had hardly any. It's just random variation. I mean, certainly certain players drop more passes than other players. I mean, you don't need me to give you a speech about Kadarius Toney this year, but I do think drops are a little overrated as a stat.
Yeah, maybe not Tony, but we'll still listen to one, more or less a rant on MVS. I think that just it's therapeutic to get that one off of your chest. But out of all the potential wildcard opponents the Chiefs could face, which is the best and which is the worst overall matchup for KC?
Okay, the worst matchup, I think, even though you beat them and they have the injuries right now, is Miami. Because I feel like if the Chiefs' weakness is run defense, then Miami is there to destroy that, right? If you don't take an early lead on them, Miami is going to just run on you, and they're going to do all their misdirection stuff and all the speed. And I don't think that the linebackers are great pass defenders for the Chiefs, although Bolton's good, and Miami does a lot of those passes in the middle of the field. So, I mean, there's no question Miami or Buffalo is the hardest wild card opponent, but I feel like Miami matches up a little bit better, even though Buffalo beat you and Miami didn't. The easiest one is Indianapolis. Indianapolis is the lowest rated by DVOA of the possible wild card team. And in particular, we were talking about L'Jarius Sneed shutting down number 1 wide receivers. The Colts are heavily dependent on one wide receiver, which is Michael Pittman. And they're just so meh in every way. The Colts are just they're so 18th They're just like 18th in everything.
We have
How the heck have they got here? I am so shocked that Gardner Minshew leading this Colts team that was atrocious last year is all of a sudden most likely making the playoffs. It
Well, no,
blows
because
my
Houston,
mind.
Houston has to be favored over them this week. But if you ask who do you want to play in the first round, you want to play the Colts.
Chiefs fans will push back a little bit there because there's kind of a Colts playoff curse for the Chiefs that Mahomes finally broke. But
I don't know. Is it a Gardner Minshew playoff curse?
Aaron, I'm guessing DVOA doesn't take into account curses here because that's where.
No, listen. Hey, I did a Dallas show earlier today, and they're obsessed with the San Francisco 49ers, not because the 49ers are so good, but because like the last 3 years, San Francisco has kicked Dallas out of the playoffs. So I understand how that is when you have a certain team that beats you. You know, I'm a Patriots fan, right? And back in the 2000s, we had that rock paper scissors situation where it was like the Colts could not beat the Patriots could not beat the Broncos, and the Broncos could not beat the Colts. It was, just the way that those teams matched up.
And we couldn't beat anybody back then. So
yeah, well, those were those teams that are so high historically in offensive DVOA, but their defenses were horrendous. If you look at the best DVOA teams to ever miss the playoffs, a couple of those early 2000s Chiefs teams show up on that list because those offenses were so good. Again, with the Trent Green.
Yeah, we're not going to, get on to you for some Trent Green love. Well, thanks for joining us, Aaron. This has been very insightful. We'll have to keep tabs on you and maybe have you back.
Yeah, people should follow me on the socials. I put out a lot of good stats, comments during games. Ace Shots NFL, ASCHATZ NFL, and ftnfantasy.com/DVOA is now where you find all the DVOA numbers and all of my content and all of my writing. So that's where you want to go to find me now, ftnfantasy.com/DVOA.
I'm a subscriber, cannot do my show sheet without checking your site. So thank you for that service, and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you guys too.
Take it easy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Aaron's great interview. Great talking with him. Again, I always have DVOA. If you guys right now in the chat who listen to this show, if you don't check out any of his work, you're doing yourself a disservice. DVOA to me is one of the more interesting and impactful statistics you can actually use, analytical statistics you can use, because it takes a lot of game management into account, right? It's all weighted. So to me, that you take way more value from that than just saying a yards per game or yards per attempt or yards per completion, some of the more basic ones. Yeah, sure, those might be important, but what is the game situation? This is all included in, that's all weighted. DVOA, phenomenal. Again, it's why we love having him on, because I am not smart enough. Believe it or not, this guy had to take math 2 times in college. 2 times. Who would have thought I would have failed once?
I'm an English guy, not a math guy, so same boat. The other thing I like about DVOA is that it gets better as the season goes along. I think it gets more effective, more predictive, the more information it has. And at this point of the season, with him kind of saying the scales are tipped so heavily towards Baltimore in the AFC, that's a little frightening because they just look like a complete juggernaut.
Yeah. Let's do the next segment, dude. The next one you came up with looks really fun, and I'm very excited for it.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So the regular season basically over. Patrick Mahomes isn't playing this week. So the Chiefs are essentially saying, it doesn't matter. We're locked into the 3 seed. Also, Oscar season is upon us. I love the Oscars. I know probably a lot of our listeners and viewers do too. So doing an award show felt appropriate. We'll try to keep it positive with the playoffs ahead. It's 2024 is a new birth for all of us. The playoffs are a new birth for the Chiefs. So with that said, let's get started. Our first award is the Joe Delaney Award, and that is Offensive Rookie of the Year. And the Wacky goes to Rashee Rice. So
it's tough.
Yeah. What I mean, maybe Wanye Morris, first among all players in yards after the catch. That's not just receivers. That's running backs. That's tight ends. That is everybody. And then he's 11th among wide receivers in yards per route run. And now he's first in rookie receiving yards under head coach Andy Reid. In the history of Andy Reid's head coaching tenures, he's number one. Not Macklin, not Deshaun Jackson, not Tyreek Hill.
Man, his trajectory this season is incredible. He went from, all right, he's probably wide receiver 5 who may get a couple snaps each game to he is a Chiefs best wide receiver and it ain't close. Rashee Rice, imagine Rashee Rice was just an average rookie in an Andy Reid system. The Chiefs offense would be beyond atrocious. I mean, Rashee Rice should get some OPOY consideration legitimately in the NFL. He has been that good and that impactful for this team.
The only two guys I'd have ahead of him league-wide as far as offensive rookies, probably CJ Stroud because of the importance of quarterback, and then Puka Nacua. Such a just record season, setting season. But Aaron said that the Chiefs are 17th in offensive DVOA since week 10. And that period of time kind of coincides with the Rashee Rice breakout. Imagine how bad this offense would be without him now. It's not a stretch to say he literally has saved the season. Now, this next one was a little harder to figure out. It is the Dale Carter Award for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He actually won league-wide Defensive Rookie of the Year back in the day. And the Wacky goes to Jamari Conner.
Oh.
I need to let you do the drum roll.
Yeah.
First time.
Oh, you're not going to do it? I'm just going to keep doing that?
We'll do it next time. We'll get it, second lowest passer rating when targeted on defense. Only L'Jarius Sneed has been better. So limited sample size, but I've been super impressed with how he stepped up and helped the Chiefs survive the Brian Cook injury.
Yeah, I mean, Jamari Conner's really the only one you can make a case for. It's not B.J. Thompson. Keandre Coburn's no longer here, obviously. And then FAU has not hardly played at all. Is obviously B.J. Thompson in the same boat. But Jamari Conner has been good. Like, he's been solid when he plays. He has been a nice piece, rotational piece. And as you mentioned, with Brian Cook going down, he stepped up. I have liked what I have seen so far from Jamari Conner. I was a little concerned about his lack of speed, right? You look at I think it was a 4.7 was what he ran, or a 4.6, not a fast dude. I was concerned about, is he going to get beat over the top? Does he have the ability to react? And if he gets a step off, can he make up the lack of speed? Well, he has so far. We've not seen him do any Tyrann Mathieu, Dan Sorensen's look around what's going on. He's been very, very smart. He's been astute. He's been in the right spot. Jamari Conner is deserving of this award, even if no one else has really stepped up as a rookie defensively.
He's the kind of player that makes me want the GPS tracking that these teams have to be publicly available, because he doesn't look noticeably slow to me on the field. I don't know if he does to you, but I haven't been like, oh my God, he's toast out there. You mentioned Tyrann Mathieu, and our next award is the Honey Badger Award for Free Agent Pickup of the Year. The Wacky goes to Drew Tranquil. So Tranquil, just a bargain basement signing by Brett Beach. He has 5 sacks as a blitzer. And in my opinion, he's the team's best coverage linebacker. I think Sterling would probably agree with that.
Correct. Yeah, he's been great. He's what he was last year. Last year was not an outlier. He is a guy who is very versatile. He can be sent on a blitz and actually get the quarterback. He's put on a little bit of weight, and so he's actually been a little better this year against the run than he was last year. You mentioned pass coverage. That ability is still there. Yeah, it's been him. He has been phenomenal.
You bring him back?
Oh, yeah. If my options, and I know everyone loves Willie Gay Jr., but if my options are bring back Willie Gay Jr. or Drew Tranquil, it's not even a competition. bring back Drew.
Yeah, I've said this before, but Willie Gay reminds me of Devin White. He makes these flashy plays, and his athleticism is off the charts, but he's been a liability in pass coverage. So I think Tranquil, especially if you can get him to come back relatively cheap, you play him alongside Leo Chanel, who I think has improved, and Nick Bolton, who just keeps getting better. And that's a solid linebacking core. You don't want to spend too much money in that position.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Next up, we have the Mitchell Schwartz Award, and that goes to the most consistent player. Mitchell Schwartz was a machine when he was healthy for the Chiefs before he was forced into retirement. Drum roll, please.
Are you going to say it? Come on. I can't. Gosh, you're killing me, Small.
I thought you were going to stop. That's my bad. We'll get this right eventually, I swear. And the Wacky goes to Joe Thuney. He's first among guards in PFF pass blocking grade and ESPN's pass block win rate. In fact, he's first among all offensive linemen in that metric. You don't notice the guy because, I mean, sometimes you do, but generally his name isn't getting called because he's not getting penalties. He's not making mistakes. He's not getting beat, you know?
No, Joe Thuney he's an Iron Man. He is the nice Terminator. Like, he's awesome. You never wanted to pay that much money for a guard, but this is the one time where it actually, I think, has worked out. Like, when he signed that contract, we're like, yeah, he's good, but can a guard really be worth that much money? The answer has been yes. He has been worth that much money. He has been phenomenal. Again, with a rotation at left tackle, even with Orlando Brown Jr. last year. This year, you've had a couple guys, a rookie with Wanya Morris, and the slightly below average play of Donovan Smith hasn't affected him. I have been thoroughly impressed with Joe Thuney, game in, game out. He broke his hand last year and still went through it. This year is obviously a different season, and he's still putting up just ridiculous analytical numbers for a guard. I love Joe Thuney.
Yeah, and any chance we get on this show to sing his praises, we do it because he's kind of a quiet, unassuming guy. He doesn't have, say, the flash of a Creed Humphrey. He doesn't have kind of the meanness of a Trey Smith. So he doesn't get as much attention from the fan base, in my opinion. And yeah.
Before we get to the next award, a couple of quick things I want to hit on. I've seen a lot in the chat, so I feel like we should talk about it here. One, the Ravens are a great team. I know some folks are trying to say, yeah, well, the Ravens haven't done it in the playoffs. This is a different Ravens team. Again, it always comes down to, is Lamar healthy? So for this game we're playing, Lamar is healthy. It's the healthiest he's been in a long time. Lamar looks incredible. The offense looks incredible. I've been high on them all season long, even earlier on in the season when they were either losing close games, they weren't putting up these incredible numbers. I go, you just wait. They're a sleeping giant. Well, that giant woke up. I am terrified of the Ravens. I think they're the best team in the NFL and the best team in the AFC, obviously. So that's where I'm at with the Ravens. Okay, they're a great team.
Yeah, we've been very high on them on this show. During the preseason, I predicted them to win the AFC North. I said Lamar Jackson was probably the fourth best quarterback in the league. And no Greg Roman, right? You mentioned it earlier. An offensive coordinator that's installed an actually modern passing game that lets Lamar fling it a little bit more.
And again, I'm not saying the Chiefs can't beat the Ravens, but I would be dishonest and I'd be a homer if I didn't say right now I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. Now I'm seeing some guys talking about the Bills. I know Ollie in here, the resident Bills fan. Hey, we're opening. We're welcome. We appreciate you in here and being respectful, right? I'm not seeing a whole bunch of call outs, some nice back and forth with everyone. The Bills right now are scary to me because they're peaking at the right time. That's what it comes down to. The Bills' defense, I don't think, is very good. I don't. But they're finding ways to win games. Josh Allen, as much as I like to laugh and joke and say at times it looks like he drops acid and goes out and plays football, he's the only guy that when he's playing at the highest level is close to being as good as Mahomes. Like, he's the only guy that can put his team on his shoulders and at times find ways to get it done. Now, we got to see it more consistent in the playoffs, obviously. But the fact that they got James Cook more involved, they're less one-dimensional and reliant on Allen, and they're more versatile. They have different ways to beat you. Now, the Bills have to make the playoffs first and foremost. They got to get a huge win week 18. They might be the second seed or they might be out. They have a very wide variance. But if I were to say right now, I actually disagree with Aaron in this one aspect here. I think the Bills, to me, are a more dangerous team than the Ravens. I trust Kansas City against Miami.
The Dolphins, right?
Yeah, sorry, than the Dolphins. The Dolphins don't scare me. Sorry, they don't. I know they have Devon Achane and that stuff. Dolphins, to me, I think the Chiefs can take care of. The Bills, on the other hand, are a team. They're peaking at the right time, and that's why they make me at least a little nervous.
Well, and it's also when your injuries occur. Because for the Bills, they happened early in the season. So their defense has had time to adapt and kind of normalize. For the Dolphins, they lost Jalen Phillips somewhat recently, and then they just lost Xavier Howard, Bradley Chubb, their star pass rusher. They're really falling apart at the worst time. And you mentioned it, the playoffs often come down to who's hot and who's healthy. And I don't think this year will be any different. So the Bills do scare me. They definitely do. And I most certainly do not want the Chiefs to go to Buffalo. That is like the worst case scenario. I mean, ideally, they get knocked out of the playoffs because they lose, Jacksonville wins, the Steelers win, and they're gone, and we don't have to worry about them. That'd be awesome, because that would be a path where we played, say, the Texans in Arrowhead on Wild Card Weekend. Then we go down to Miami to play a banged up team we've already beaten. And Cleveland, who plays the Ravens tough generally, year in, year out, would play the Ravens, and you never know. So that would be my ideal path to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, is he elite? We're going back to 2012 conversations now, huh?
He has nothing, he has nothing to lose. That is a team and a quarterback with nothing to lose, and one of the best defenses in the league. They don't seem it, but they're pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I'm with
you.
And
I like their weapons. You know, Amari Cooper is a little inconsistent, but David Njoku has been an animal for like the last 6 weeks or something. The former early round pick that's finally, tight ends take a while, right? He's finally blossoming.
Yeah, he's quite frankly, ever since the injury, he got those burns, right? Ever since then, he has all of a sudden stepped up. It's like his villain story, right? It's like, or his hero story, whatever you want to call it. It's been crazy.
Yeah, it's like when Spider-Man gets bit by the radioactive spider. What happened to him in that fire?
Yeah, he caught fire. Like it's crazy.
And he showed up with that mask, that hockey mask, just looking like the scariest human on the planet. Yeah, he's been good. So fun little playoff discussion interlude. Let's get back to the award show. And the next award is the Hank Stram Award. The Wacky goes to Steve Spagnuolo.
Hey, woo!
Spags. So Spags, what he has done this season is nothing short of remarkable. He's taken the youngest snap-adjusted defense in the entire league and turned them into a unit that allows 17.6 points a game, third best in the league. Only Baltimore and San Francisco have been better. And really, they look like a top 5 or 6 unit by most metrics. And I think they're an elite defense. Are they the best defense in the league? No, but they're way ahead of schedule.
Dude, they're incredible. They're unreal. If the offense was any better and stopped turning the damn ball over, the defense would look even better by comparison. I mean, the defense, how many times have we said their back is against the wall and they hold teams to field goals because the offense put them in a bad spot? Seriously, it's been absurd. This defense is elite. Spagnuolo deserves so much credit. I was always pissed off when people said in the previous seasons, fire Spags. First off, he's a big game coordinator. He gets it done in big games, and now we are seeing it for a full season, and the same thing is happening. The defense is starting to peak at the right time. They've gotten better and better and better, and it's like a boxer. The first quarter, first half, they're figuring out their opponent. What happens second half? Lockdown, nails. Spags deserves so much credit. I love what he's doing. A lot of times, first half, the defensive line isn't getting a ton of pressure. So what's he do? He finds ways to exploit them. Spagnuolo does not show you his hand in the first half. He might be bluffing, but second hand, he knows what he has, and he gonna get you. I love Spagnuolo, baby.
Give this man his flowers, and I am totally with you. I don't want to ever hear the fire Spags chatter again. It's to use a Sterling word, it is asinine. And one thing that gives me a little bit of hope for a potential tilt with the Ravens is Lamar Jackson has never seen a bespoke Steve Spagnuolo defensive game plan in the playoffs. Spags, he'll have some aces up his sleeve for the Ravens if they meet. Better believe that.
Yeah.
Next up is the Dante Hall Award. Of course, that's the special teamer of the year. And the Wacky goes to Harrison Butker.
Yeah, sorry, you kind of get tired of doing that.
Yeah,
man.
we're gonna stop it.
It's a lot. I have a kazoo right here, but the issue is I did it earlier on a show. And believe it or not, my dog does not like the sound of kazoos, which is shocking to any dog owner that they wouldn't just automatically love the sound of a kazoo. So maybe as we get off the show, I will do the kazoo.
Yeah, you play the drums? I think you play the drums, don't you?
I do, if that wasn't a dead giveaway over my dome.
Yeah, we could have an actual drum roll if we would have coordinated a little better. That's on
sick text best. Appreciate that one.
Yeah. He's just been an assassin this year. And I think Harrison Butker has proved that between last postseason and this season, the ankle messed him up a little bit. He hurt last year against the Arizona Cardinals opening day. It took him almost to the playoffs to be the same guy. And I think it messed with his approach, his technique, all of that. And once that happens, we're seeing this different position, but it's the same thing with Jawan Taylor. Once you get out of sync, that can really mess up your game.
Yeah, I do a weekly chat with Nick Lowry, and we said the same thing last year. A lot of it was physical. That was the issue. And then the physical side kind of creeped its way into the mental side. But again, this year's been back to the same old Harrison Butker. I mean, we've all agreed that it's been him and maybe Brandon Aubrey as the best two kickers in football this year, even better than Justin Tucker, at least as this season goes. And Butker has always been clutch in big-time moments. That's huge. The moment's never too big for him. We talked about earlier on that one miss against the Patriots, right? The artificial field versus natural grass, how it's different for a kicker, how that can sometimes get in your head. And how it just the plant leg can be a little different, how you saw him go to one knee a lot. Like I always said, Adrian Beltre in baseball, right? He used to drop to one knee a lot when he would swing. Well, Butker was doing it in Gillette on the artificial turf. So for him, I think if you want a little underlying storyline, best place for him to play is places that have natural grass versus artificial. Just a little underlying storyline to take a look at. But again, Butker has been so good. I'm with you, man. The Dante Hall Award, hats off to you.
And Dante Hall is one of my top 5 all-time favorite Chiefs. So great award. Oh, you got something for us.
It's a Dante Hall signed baseball. And you might be asking, why is it a Dante Hall signed baseball? Well, my mom had a chance to meet Dante Hall at some event. It was some auction or something like that. And all she had on her was a baseball. Now, why was there a baseball in her purse? I do not know. That might be a better question. But she had that on him, and like Step Brothers, where all he had was a sword, you're not going to not get Randy Jackson's signature. So my mom, of course, hands Dante Hall a baseball, and he signs it. So
that's unbelievable that you just pulled that, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. Not quite as random, but still pretty random to have the human joystick sign the ball of a different sport.
Yeah, it says to Sterling, D Hall 8-2 with an X in the middle for X Factor. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Very cool. Next up is the Eric Fisher Award, and that goes to the most improved player. The Wacky goes to George Karlaftis. Double-digit sacks, and he's top 20 in pressures among all defensive linemen, looking like a steal. I know what you're going to bring up. I know what you're going to
Who
do.
told you? Who has been the George Karlaftis fan club member numero uno? This dude, even before he was drafted, I kept saying, draft Karlaftis. I don't think he has the upside of a Myles Garrett, but who does at that spot? Give me the known. I'm sometimes tired of always trying to get a guy with the highest potential. And again, he was a 21-year-old dude coming from Greece, still learning the game of football. He still had room to improve. But you knew what you're going to get, a guy who's going to be consistently around 8 to 12 sacks. He's solid against the run. He can do a little bit of everything, and he's got a fantastic motor. I love Karlaftis. So for me, this is just validation of everything I thought he could be, and even then some. I am all in on the Greek freak.
The Chiefs are looking strong at edge. Charles Omenihu is really coming on. His athleticism is popping off the screen. And Mike Dana as well. What more can you say about that guy? We'll get to him here in a minute. But yeah, tip my hat to you on George Karlaftis. And you've got a good point. Are you going to take the sure thing and George Karlaftis or burn the #1 overall pick on someone like Travon Walker, who isn't really even half the player Karlaftis is right now?
Yeah.
Let alone the player Aiden Hutchinson is. But getting Karlaftis at 29 when inferior players like not just Walker, but also Jermaine Johnson hasn't been as good as George Karlaftis. So, and even until this season, it looked like Thibodeau wasn't as good. So George Karlaftis has given them immediate production on a rookie deal, and that's extremely valuable at edge.
Yeah, could not agree with you more.
The Tamba Hali Award. This goes to the player with the best motor. And it wasn't easy. There are two guys in consideration for this. I'm worried one of them won't be around next year. So the Wacky goes to Mike Dana, a former 177th pick. He's massively outplayed his draft status, and he just gives max effort every single down.
I am shocked at his career arc. Shocked. Because when he was drafted in the 5th round, most sites had him as a 7th rounder or undrafted, a UDFA. And I'm sitting here going, why did the Chiefs spend a 5th rounder on a UDFA? I was wrong. Totally wrong on Mike Dana. And year after year, I always say he's the unsung hero of this Chiefs team. I have changed my tune dramatically on him. Over the past couple of seasons, everything that he does, it might not always show up. He might not be the quickest, fastest, tallest, biggest, whatever it is, but he finds ways to get it done and to produce. I am all in on Mike Dana. He puts his hands up, does a lot of the little things. You know, the Chiefs obviously knew more in the draft process than we do. And that's why they took him and why I am not a draft analyst, because I'm an idiot and completely just would have butchered that one.
In fairness to you, they get to talk to the kid. They get a closer look than all of us do. And they must have seen something in his tape and meeting with him in person or asking about him that made him a perfect fit for this system, the SPAG system. He's very picky about the kinds of defensive ends he likes. Let's move on to the Jamal Charles Award. This goes to Offensive Player of the Year. No surprise here. The Wacky goes to Patrick Mahomes. So the offense is 6th in DVOA over the course of the season and 10th in EPA, despite the highest wide receiver drop rate in a decade among any team. No team has had worse luck with drops. He's kept the offense. They've had some struggles, but he's kept it good enough for them to get in the playoffs. They're the 3 seed. I mean, they're not the 1 or 2 seed, but they're still in great position. I think you have to give it to him, especially when we've already given Rashee Rice the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I just think Travis Kelce is having a bit of a down season.
I think the only other name you could make a case for would be Joe Thuney. I think actually legitimately can make a case for Offensive Player of the Year as Joe Thuney, a guard. And I would entertain Isaiah Pacheco. I'd entertain it. But I think you're right. Grand scheme of things, Mahomes has still been the best player offensively, the most consistent player for the Chiefs. I go back and forth because he's having a down year, and it's fair to criticize him for having a down year.
Well, compared to whom? Like
to himself, but
Dan Marino.
Of course, I'm comparing to him and not Tyler Thigpen. Like that's why I compare this Chiefs team to the past, 6 years of Chiefs football, the past 8 years of Chiefs football. I'm not comparing them to 2012.
Yeah.
There's different expectations here. So I think it's fair. Right? There's two sides of things. People that think Mahomes is horrendous this year, which I think is completely off base. I've seen a lot of that. And I've seen some people who think that he is having one of his best years and it's all the receivers and the scheme. I go, guys, can we have some nuance here? Mahomes is having a bad year for his standards. For his standards, this is a down year. He has still been a very, very good player, a great quarterback. But again, I'm comparing him to his standards, the Mahomesian standards. I am not comparing him to the Baker Mayfield standards. A large difference here. That's what it comes down to.
Baker Mayfield catching strays. That's like,
sorry, but like,
no, I get it. That's a habit for that guy, though. He seems to always get thrown under the bus.
No, but Baker's having a good year.
Yeah,
Baker's having a nice year. Mahomes is still had a better year.
I mean, it helps to throw to Mike Evans and Rashad White and Chris Godwin. I mean, that doesn't. I'd like to see what Mahomes could do with those weapons. Here's what I'll say about Mahomes. Literally, in 3 games, if the guy just catches one pass, they have 3 more wins. That would completely change their season. The other thing is, I really do believe he's been a better scrambler this season than at any point in his career. So you have to kind of remember that, especially when he's adjusting to a struggling receiver core without Juju, with Travis slowing down, and to 2 new tackles. So you have to kind of consider, and also Eric Bieniemy. They lost a lot of continuity from last year.
Yeah, but Matt Nagy's been around a long time too.
He has.
So again, it's a combination of things. I'm just somewhere in the middle of Mahomes is having a down year for his standards while he is still absolutely incredible.
And I think I'd say the same thing about Chris Jones, because a lot of people have said Chris Jones is struggling this year, which is just, they're out of their mind. They're out of their mind. Now, is Chris Jones as good as he was last year? No, because that's nearly unsustainable Aaron Donald level play. But if you look at, pass rush win rate, pressures, PFF grade, he's still in the top 3 or 4 in almost every metric among defensive tackles. So to act like there's been this tremendous fall off, there hasn't. He just kind of regressed to the all-pro player he's been for the majority of his career.
Sure. And the difference is, though, at least in my eyes, you want to get paid like Aaron Donald. I don't want to hear double teams as an excuse. That's what it comes down to for me, at least a little bit. At least a little bit. If you want to be the highest paid defensive tackle or second highest paid just underneath him, then you got to be him. And he's been great. He's been incredible, but he's not been prime Aaron Donald. And if you'll be paid like that, you better be that.
I agree with you. I think he's lost some money this year because he's gotten older and this hasn't been as good of a season. The other thing I'll say about Chris is I hear a lot of, well, he doesn't do anything early in games. Well, the reason he always flashes late in games, Spags and him, they wait to kind of pull out, if they have a matchup that they think they can exploit, they don't want to do that in the second quarter to the point where the other team makes an adjustment. They want to save that up their sleeve for crunch time. That's why you get so many sacks, I think, late in games. Maybe as many sacks over the past 2 years in overtime and the fourth quarter as anybody in football.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Derek Thomas Award, and that is Defensive Player of the Year. We already know it's not Chris Jones. The Wacky goes to Trent McDuffie. Now we have
people being angry right now.
Keep in mind, we have one more award left. So I haven't forgotten about anybody here. The Chiefs defense, in my opinion, went from bad to great when he became a full-time player midway through last season, because he had the ankle sprain early. The Chiefs took it kind of slowly with him. They slow played his recovery and his comeback. Ever since then, you can look at almost any metric you want. They've been remarkably better. And they were good last year. They were really hot in the playoffs, and they sustained that over the course of this entire season. He has been the kind of key ingredient to put them over the top.
Yeah, and because we're going to give a different award to a different player, we did not forget about certain player that took him out of the running for this specific award. So yeah, Trent McDuffie has been great. Again, he was a guy who I wouldn't say I was necessarily wrong on, but he's been better than I've expected. Now, I thought he would get burnt a little more, not necessarily burnt as far as not knowing where to be or just consistently getting torched. I thought he was going to get mossed a lot more. That's not been the case. I think at times we get, and myself included, we get so caught up in measurables that we think that's the end all be all. We think, oh, he's got short arms. Well, AJ Brown's going to every single play go up and just it doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen.
And he's going to do that to everybody. We saw that with Charvarius Ward, with Jamar Chase. I mean, sometimes with those guys, there's just nothing you can do.
They are going to get theirs. But with McDuffie, man, I have been very impressed. He's been better than I thought he was going to be. He plays like a veteran. He plays very smart. He uses the sidelines to his advantage. It's crazy. He's a second-year player who, in my opinion, plays like a vet who's been in the NFL for 5-6 years. It's great to watch.
Yeah, and I think one of the knocks on him coming out was that he didn't force interceptions and he didn't have the ball skills that you might want. That's not the way Spags plays. You see that the Chiefs don't force a lot of turnovers, but they also don't risk. They're not their corners don't play that risky Dallas Cowboys style where you're either taking it to the house or the other team's taking it to the house. They want to limit, like Aaron said, they want to limit explosive plays. And Trent McDuffie has been one of the key ingredients in doing that.
I always say it's the anti-Marcus Peters. The Chiefs cornerbacks, they like guys who tackle, who stay in the hip pocket, who don't gamble. So you get less interceptions. That's why the Chiefs' turnover margin is negative this season by a decent margin, but why the defense as a whole has been way better than in years past. They don't gamble, and they tackle. They wrap up. They do the smart play, not the sexy play.
Yeah, and hopefully Mahomes and the offense can clean that up so that turnover differential won't be a problem. The last award is the Len Dawson Award. That is the team MVP. And the Wacky goes to L'Jarius Sneed, who really deserves this, has had a phenomenal season, especially the last 10 weeks or so. He's just been on an absolute tear. He's created what I would say an alpha receiver graveyard. Just listen to what he's done to some of the best in the game. A.J. Brown, 1 catch for 8 yards. Devontae Adams in 2 games. The first one, 5 for 73. That's about as good as you're going to do against L'Jarius Sneed. The second time, 1 catch, 4 yards. DJ Moore, 3 catches for 41 yards. Jamar Chase, 3 catches for 41 yards. Maybe stop talking. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 28. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 24. And Tyreek Hill, 8 for 62. No TDs on the season. I mean, what more can we say? I know we had this discussion with Aaron that it's a little risky to pay a corner big money, but this is one of the few corners in the league who travels with these star receivers and shadows them, and is just incredibly versatile. We used to think he was a slot corner, and he's transformed himself from maybe the best slot corner in the league to one of the best lockdown corners in the league. I think there can be more consistency with this player than some of the other ones.
Yeah, man, he's been unreal. Sorry, the Chiefs are not getting a deal anymore. I thought the Chiefs were able to say, hey, you play a lot of slot corner, which kind of hurts you when it comes to negotiations. Well, that is no longer the case. L'Jarius Sneed is going to get paid. He is going to get paid, which makes this a very difficult conversation. But guess what? We don't have to worry about that because this is 2023/2024, which means he has been elite. He has been electric. He has been the Chiefs' defensive and overall MVP. L'Jarius Sneed, I can't wait because he's going to help keep the Chiefs in all the playoff games they're in this season. He is going to be a massive reason why. He does everything, but because he is so good that he can go on an island and go one-on-one if need be. If need be, it allows Spags to send another guy on a blitz, whether that's McDuffie, whether that's Justin Reed, whether that's Drew Tranquill. The electric and ability of Sneed to go one-on-one allows Spags to use everyone else as a chess piece. He is the king. He is the queen. He is everything. He's L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, and you love to see when Jamar Chase, I think that was a shot directly at L'Jarius Sneed, in my opinion, saying they have no Jalen Ramsey. When the Chiefs have had a corner, he might not be Jalen Ramsey, but for the last 8 or 10 weeks, he's certainly played Jalen Ramsey-esque. So what did L'Jarius Sneed do? He didn't back down. Even though he was injured, he was saying, there's no way in hell I'm not playing this game. There's no way in hell I'm not playing every snap. And there's no way in hell I'm not shutting down Jamar Chase, one of the, I don't know, at worst, 5 best receivers in the league, 5 most dynamic receivers in the league. There's just nothing more we can say about this guy. I'm thinking 20 million per ballpark.
Maybe I'd say less.
18?
I'd say more than the 18. I'd say somewhere from 16 to 18 is probably what he's going to get. If I was a betting man right now, off the top of the dome, I'm saying 16 to 18. Just that position.
Isn't that what J.C. Jackson made? I'm trying to figure out
Yeah, but J.C. Jackson won a lot of awards before then. What's going to hurt Sneed is he's yet to win an All-Pro, which he's going to get this year. If he does not get All-Pro, I'm going to be shocked. I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be angry.
Well, he's on TV a lot, so I think that helps.
Yeah.
And after J.C. Jackson, there might be a little bit of a market correction because he was certainly overpaid. But also keep in mind that the salary cap is expected to spike. We'll probably go up 32 million, something like that. So we shall see. But right now, we don't have to worry about it. We're going to have L'Jarius Sneed for the playoffs. If we have to play against Michael Pittman, if we have to play against Diggs or Hill or the assortment of receivers the Ravens have, we're going to have this guy to shut them down. So I think he's going to be perhaps the most important defensive cog for the Chiefs for the stretch run. That's all we've got, guys. Thank you so much to the chat. Big props as always. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? We're bringing you lots of great content. Also, mash that like button. That really helps as well. And if you're an audio listener on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. That helps us reach more fans. We will be back next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Central, right here on the Arrowhead Addict YouTube channel. Until then, go Chiefs.